So Ninjago has nearly been running for 14 years now, and just like that, I feel incredibly old. But of course, over that course of time, we have received a lot of different ninja uniforms that they have worn over the years. And why is that? Well, let's just say how it really is. It is to sell sets. Okay, bye! No, the real reason as well is that they want to keep things fresh. They don't want the ninja to maintain the same suits all the time because it would make things ultimately a little bit stale. And to sell the sets. But we have to look at it from an in-universe perspective. So why would the ninja change an outfit so frequently? Because if it wasn't broke, why would they fix it? So this has led me down a somewhat rabbit hole of trying to figure out why each suit that the ninja has actually exists, and I do think I have a decent idea on all of them, and let me know if you do agree with these. So just like that, let's take a look at every single type of ninja uniform, and why the ninja were using it. To start off, we do have the black suits from Season 1 and also Season 15, and for the most part, they both had two different purposes. In the pilot, J. Zane had the ninja suits because they weren't officially the elemental ninja yet. They were training under Wu just as ninja. They weren't aware of the elemental properties until Kai joined them. As for the Season 15 suits, they were of course used to break in and steal Asphira's staff. So they needed an outfit that didn't match up to their typical ninja attire, because they understood that they were breaking the law. So that is why those two suits exist. But then the ones that came after were the training suits, and the main difference between these and the black suits were that they just represented the elemental properties of each of the ninja. But other than that, it is just what the name is. It's their training suits. There's nothing more to put by it than that. And of course, these were used through till the middle of Season 1, where we do get introduced into the ZX suits. And these were the start of the suits that the ninja got for no real purpose, but there's still an explanation behind them. You could attribute the ZX suits to two different reasons. One being that these suits were useful for countering the effects of the Serpentine, which we do see mainly with Jay's metal arm, and you could also attain it too since they were graduating the ninja to more than just training, as they were more official and more established looking outfits. Because you could take that as a more established outfit because Moro, who has what resembles the training uniform, actually not get anything beyond a ZX suit. So because Wu didn't have him as a student for too long, you could show that this means that he never got to the point where the ninja were with their ZX suits. So that is why Moro has what looks like a training outfit on during Season 5. But in between the ZX and the training suits, there were actually the DX suits, and these ones were used to represent when they were using their dragons, as they say verbatim that they are dragon suits. So the explanation for their existence clearly comes down to the fact that they were used primarily to ride dragons with, and I don't know if there was any sort of added bonus to wearing those suits when they were on the dragons. I don't know if their training uniform simply didn't match up properly with the dragons, but these were only worn during those times, and they were quite brief at that. So that is why these ones also exist. They also had the Kendo variant as well that they had in one appearance, and these ultimately also just exist for the fact that they were training with each other, so they wanted an extra layer of protection, so that's why the Kendo suits exist as well. I don't know whether or not I want to include the non-canon suits, because the NRG suits technically don't appear in the show itself, because the ninja don't exactly resemble that look. They are more just a translucent variant of the ZX suits. So I thought I would just leave this here, just so you're aware of why you won't see the NRG suits, the Air Jitsu suits, the Spin Jitsu Burst suits, and so on. It's just so you're aware, and also just so I don't have to answer why in the comments. But that does bring us to the next variant of suit, which is of course the elemental kimonos. And you could attribute these suits existing to one of two reasons. For one, you could see it as a gift from the first Spin Jitsu master to the ninja, as these suits do represent a final form, so to speak, of the look of the ninja. Very unified, very official, very seasoned looking outfits. So you could say that they were a final gift from the first Spin Jitsu master for achieving the level they have. The other reason you could give is that these suits simply are just a byproduct of using the elemental blades, because you can see that the elemental blades appear in the ninja's hands in reaction to getting the suits. So, you could say that they were just a byproduct of the elemental blades, because they also disappear after the ninja no longer have them. But that then brings us to the Techno Robes, and these were obviously a gift from Cyrus Borg to avoid the Ninjoid detection systems that they had, as these were able to scramble them as they were looking for the Kimono Ninja and not the Techno Ninja. And there's no other explanation outside of that. They're very clear cut with what these suits were and where they came from, and there's no speculation for these suits. And to be honest, there's not a lot of speculation for a lot of these early suits, because for the most part they make sense. There's only a couple I would say are a bit more ambiguous, to say the least. But this is essentially just a history of each of the suits and where they came from, so I do hope you enjoy. But with the Techno suits did come the gold variant from the episode Enter the Digiverse, and these were granted as a temporary boost as they synced with Lloyd and they made a light to destroy the Overlord virus. So they existed for that specific purpose and they never left outside of that. But they're still a cool addition nonetheless, and at least it's fairly clear cut why they were here. But speaking of clean cut, these stone armor outfits as well are fairly easy to explain away when it comes to the ninja, as they were a boost using the Overlord's armor to be able to counteract the Golden Master, and there's no other explanation for them outside of that. They're a simple armor bonus that was used to combat the Overlord. So again, there's not much else to say about it. Hey, on a side note, I'm actually kind of questioning why this video needs to exist, but I do promise there are suits that need a little bit of explanation, but we just haven't gotten to them yet. So bear with me, and if you are watching this video, I appreciate you, you're a legend. Next up, of course, is going to be the tournament suits, and they were a gift from Chen for entering the tournament, as I believe he just wanted the ninja to blend into the aesthetic that he wanted. There is not really a full-fledged reason for the existence of them. The most that we know is that they were a gift from Chen, and they probably just coincided with his idea in some way. And he also probably just wanted the ninja to look all unified, so they would have a target on the back of their head with the other elemental masters. So that's for the most part how we can explain away these ones. But then next up we did get to the jungle robes, which again are presumably a gift from Chen to keep them unified, but for them to also explore the island to search for Nia. And again, that's really it. There's not much else to really say about them outside of that. They were again just a gift from Chen for staying in the tournament, and then they were used to hunt down Nia, because you could presumably say that the sleeveless variants of them were just not suitable for the wilderness, so these were just a lot more padded so they could get around the island easier. But we are finally to a suit I'd have to explain. Yes! Anyway, the Deep Zone suits. Why do these exist? But there are a few reasons for this. You could say either that the ninja didn't want to use any of the previous suits because they were made by Chen, which is one of their villains, or the suits before that, which are the Techno Robes, because they were made to counter the Ninjoids and also made by Cyrus Borg. I honestly would like to think that they like to use suits given to them by Wu. You could also say that the ninja just wanted to look more unified now that they got the team back together, because at this point they finally got Zane back and they were finally one once more. So they wanted to have suits to celebrate that they were finally back together, because the Deep Tone suits are extremely similar to each other, mainly being black just with their colours as secondary. And then obviously the final reason is that when they do upgrade to the Deep Stone variant where they have it embedded in their suits, they just needed the suits to be able to counteract the power of the ghosts. And they may as well use the suits they have already on hand to do that. So that is, for the most part, why the Deep Stone suits exist, in my opinion. But next up, technically but not chronologically, is going to be the future suits. Because we do see them in Season 5, but theoretically they are the final suits that the ninja would wear. And of course, they're the robes that they would use as masters. So there's not much else to really say about them outside of that. They are simply used because they've reached the final stage of their mastery, and those are the robes to represent it. But the ones that are next up are of course the Skybound suits or the Destiny robes, and there is a fairly simple explanation for these ones. These suits are the celebration of the ninja learning air jitsu, so they have the suits to represent it, because for the most part, they're actually extremely similar to the Deep Stone suits. They have the same mask, they have the same legs. I think the only one that has different legs is actually Zane, because you can't see the bottom of the daggers. But these suits were used as the celebration of them having Air-Jitsu and also to keep them unified still. And that is the only reason why they really exist, because Nia is the best example. She kept her Deep Stone suit until she learned Air-Jitsu, and then she was finally able to use the Destiny robe. So it's clear that they were a gift from Wu to celebrate the new art form. Speaking of celebration, then you do have the honor robes, and they again are what the name describes. They are to honor the past in terms of their family, their friends, and also their history, because all of their suits are very resemblant of their previous suits before. I mean, you can see it completely throughout all of them. All of them have the main training suit, but with a lot of aspects taken from their ZX suits. Because you can see that Cole has all the ropes, Jay has the metal arm, Kai has the dark red, and Zane has the brown robe effect. All of them do have aspects of those two suits that came before, and then Lloyd and Nia are just a modernized version of the training suits. So that's why these exist. And we are now to, in my opinion, the most fascinating suits of the lot, and the main reason I am making this video, and that is, why do the fusion suits exist? Because for the most part, there is absolutely no reason for these suits to exist. So why do they exist? Well, let's go through it quickly. I would say it's a combination of two things. For one, the honor robes seem to be exclusive to the Day of the Departed, so they wouldn't use those outfits outside of that celebration. Which of course leads them to, why don't they just continue to use the Air-Jitsu suits or the Destiny robes? And honestly, I see it as they moved on from the celebration of that art form. They have now learned Air-Jitsu. It's now a part of their ninja training. And in my opinion, they probably just saw it as there's no longer a reason to represent the learning of the art form. So, for the most part, it is now just them moving on to a new type of suits. And you could even say that these suits do inherently look more armored than the Destiny robes. So, it may have also been a case of the ninja wanting to armor back up a little more now that they're facing potentially a new threat. Especially considering that their previous battle was against all of their former villains. So they may have thought to themselves they may need to armor up just in case for the future. But that is about my explanation for the fusion suits, and let me know if you do agree with them. And I will say as well, I am going to be skipping out all of the movie variants because they don't exactly coincide with the show. So there's no reason for them to transition from the fusion to the movie suits. So let's just get on to Season 8. Season 8 is another one that doesn't exactly have an outright explanation. So it's again another one to speculate on. So again, I'm justifying my video! But I would like to think that these suits are down to the fact that the ninja were looking for Wu, and also for the most part were going on missions on their own and not as a unified team. Because these suits for the most part are more unique to themselves, and they all have their own different takes on certain things. So I honestly think these suits were made by themselves just so they could have their own look now that they weren't exactly acting as a full-blown team. And honestly, I don't see any explanation outside of that, so if you have an alternative idea for them, let me know. But in my opinion, that's the best way to explain the existence of these robes. And then, if we do look at Hunted, which are the next lot, there's a very simple explanation for these. They are just the destroyed or the adjusted variants of the Season 8 suits. All of them have destroyed or additional pieces of armor on them to represent the time. And you can see that once that the ninja were returned and Garmadon was defeated, they went back to the Season 8 suits, which are nice clean variants of this ones. So that is the explanation for the Season 9. But then that does bring us to Season 10, and again, you don't really have an outright explanation for the existence of these suits, but I'd like to present one to you. I personally think that these suits exist because they got their monastery back, and they wanted a new suit and a more dragon-based suit to represent that celebration. Because by this point they hadn't had the monastery for a very long time, and now they got it back, and they got Wu back, and they were probably feeling a little bit nostalgic, let's be honest. I do think they had these new suits made to celebrate their new home being back. But again, for the most part, that is the only explanation I can really give. The only other thoughts I did partially have is that they just simply wanted to move on from those suits and have suits again given to them by Wu. But that's about all I can really think of for that. So let's move on to the next one. And these, of course, are the Season 11 suits that we see up until Season 15. And these ones appear in some capacity in every season, so they clearly saw them as their standard suits for a while now. So let's explain why they exist. Now, a part of me would honestly like to say that the suits we see in Season 10 were probably destroyed after the battle with the Oni, or at the very least damaged, so they probably felt the need for new suits. I'd also like to see it as the Ninja again making their own suits, because for the most part they thought Ninjago was at peace, so they may have had made more relaxing suits based on their own preference, and that is why all the ninja look more unique from each other, and all of them displays their personality in their own way. So I do think for the most part these suits were created by themselves. And they do just keep coming back to these suits, so they clearly do like it, so I can't really think of any other reason that they exist outside of that. But then, every other suit from here onwards can be explained fairly easily, so let's quickly go through them. Season 12's Digi-suits were created because they needed avatars for the game that they were playing. Season 13's Master of the Mountain suits were created because they had a more armoured look, because Nia went to battle, Kai had to face up and be a king, Cole wanted to armour up to face off the Skull Sorcerer. They're all just armoured variants to counteract the Skull Sorcerer, so that's why they exist. The island suits, I think, share a very similar nature to the jungle robes, where they wanted a more armoured attire to be able to counteract the wilderness. So I think that is for the most part why those exist as well. Again, the scuba suits are very explainable. They were used obviously because they were going underwater. I really didn't think I'd have to explain a suit like that because they're probably the most obvious of the bunch. But again, that's why they exist. The fugitive suits exist because the ninja needed to hide away because of the fact that they were wanted by the Ninjago police. They needed to hide up, they needed to cover up themselves so they could evade the law. So again, that's why they're around. And the golden variants were of course used to counter again the powers of the Overlord. And they were served as a final armor to be able to counter the Crystal Army. And again, Dragon's Rising is in a very similar nature again. I mean, the core suits existed because they wanted to change out the golden armor, and they probably, again, just wanted to change. The merged suits exist simply as backup suits, presumably, because each of the ninja, after reuniting, changed into those suits. They clearly had them existing at that point. So they clearly served as some sort of backup outfits. The mech suits again were used to use when they were having mechs. And obviously you could argue that they didn't have the mechs before they even had the suits, so there's not really much of an explanation on why they exist. But again, you could probably attribute it to a specific reason, but for the most part they were used because of the mechs. The climber suits again existed because they were going on a venture to find a new master to teach them Rising Dragon, so they needed a suit to accompany them on that journey, so again, that's them. And finally, the tournament suits exist because they were entering a tournament. They were made by themselves, and they went in knowing that they were going in to fight in a tournament. So again, relatively easy explanations all around. And I am sorry if this does feel almost brief, but for the most part, there weren't many suits that needed a lot of explanation. But there were a certain array of suits that would like to be covered, and that is why I made this video. But I do hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know if you agree with my explanations on the more ambiguous suits, and which are your favourite suits in general. But that about does it, guys. Thank you for watching, take care, okay, bye!